For size-oversized contained systems of 3000L, the containment pipe now needs to be cut to length. This is done with square-cut pipe cut to the proper length as described previously. A minimum of 1-inch insertion into the Dualoy 3000L containment fittings must be made. For a pipe length with no coupling in the primary, this makes the containment pipe nearly equal, less than 1-inch difference, to the length of the primary pipe. The containment pipe will need to be moved to the other end as far as possible to give adequate room for subsequent bonding and inspection. For the LCX system, the containment pipe is automatically the correct length since it is cut relative to the length of the primary pipe during the jacket cutting step. This is where much of the labor savings of the LCX systems comes from. Less measuring, handling, cutting, trips in and out of the trench, and so forth. If more room is desired in the 3000L containment system for bonding and inspection, it can be done by cutting the containment pipe length and removing 3 to 10 inches of the pipe length at the interior cut point. When final assembly is done, a containment clamshell coupling can be used to close the containment with the pipe ends displaced from each other by the distance removed. Continue dry fitting the pipe runs from each dispenser sump fitting and tank sump fitting to complete the system. Where pipe is laid with multiple lines parallel to each other, a minimum spacing of 4 inches is required, as shown in the installation bulletins. As a practical matter, it is recommended that the spacing be widened to 6 inches to allow stepping or walking between the pipe without stepping on or scraping against the pipe wall. To maintain the proper slope, as mentioned earlier, a common practice is to use batter boards along the piping layout that are correctly set to the height required for the slope. This allows the slope to be measured once, then maintained throughout the job, rather than requiring repeated measurements during installation. Without batter boards, height adjustments can be made with mounds of pea gravel, but this usually ends up taking more time by the end of the installation than would be used in building the batter boards. Depending on the configuration chosen, some special assemblies may be needed to properly fit the system. When the sights are laid out in a parallel circuit configuration, multiple lines travel along a line of dispensers and branches come off into each dispenser. The outer lines away from each dispenser will have to cross the line closer to the dispenser. In order to maintain the slope of the system, while still minimizing the burial depth of the tank, both Dualoy 3000L and LCX systems are designed to allow short crossovers to be made. Neither system requires a greater height difference with a contained system that would be needed for a single-wall system. This saves excavation, backfill, and haul-off costs for the whole site. Crossovers are typically made with a T and a 45-degree elbow, although a 90-degree elbow could also be used. The most remote dispenser from the tank is the governing point for a sloped system. The height of the sump penetrations will set the course for all the others. It is best to have the pipelines arranged so that no crossing is required at the most remote dispenser. That is not always possible, but it should be considered when beginning the line layout. If it cannot be done, the short crossover is very advantageous. Even when no crossing can be accomplished, short crossovers may be needed at the next dispenser to avoid putting excess slope on the lines between the two. There are 2 keys to making a short crossover. Only one applies to 3000L and both apply to the LCX systems. The key for both systems is a close nipple between the primary fittings. A close nipple is a taper-by-taper piece of primary pipe to the shortest dimension which allows the primary fittings to be bonded without interference as close as possible. Close nipples can best be fabricated at the job site and the fittings dry fit to assure correct position. To make a close nipple, a piece of primary pipe can be cut to a length that is easily and safely handled to use in the tapering tool, 8 inches for example. Once tapered, or if a tapered piece is initially used, it can then be cut to 3.5 or 4 inches length for 2-inch pipe. The tapered end of the pipe should then be dry fit into a coupling. This allows safe handling of the close nipple when tapering the second end. Once this is done, the finished nipple can then be removed from the coupling and the fit of the fittings confirmed. The primary fittings should not be closer together than 1/2 inch when dry fit. 3000L containment clamshells are designed short to allow them to fit over this close nipple fitting assembly without requiring additional separation. A short piece, approximately 4 inches long, of square-cut containment pipe will be used to connect the clamshells and contain the primary assembly. LCX clamshells are designed such that the center portion of the fitting will fit the next larger size single-wall pipe. This feature allows the same final assembly to be possible with the coaxial system. To do this, the LCX can be cut at the larger end of the tapered leg on both halves to yield the same dimension of the 3000L clamshell. Again, the 4-inch long square-cut single-wall containment pipe is to be used to connect the clamshells and contain the primary assembly. There are often occasions when piping size needs to change in a system. 2-inch Dualoy piping is usually used to connect up to 6 dispensers. If more are in the station system, it is common to use 3-inch coming out of the sump termination fitting and branch to 2-inch when the system splits, such as in a 4x2 domino pattern. Also, it is common for vapor recovery lines at a dispenser to be sized to 2-inch and connect to a 3-inch manifold back to the tank. Fittings are available to make these kinds of size changes in both 3000L and LCX systems. The primary reduction is done at the bell of a fitting by including a bushing. This bushing bonds into the fitting bell, and the smaller pipe spigot bonds into it. For 3000L, the reduction of the containment system is done with a reducing clamshell. This is done at the branch of a T. The containment T is assembled with the containment pipe and a short square-cut pipe leg. The reducing clamshell then connects the short pipe leg to the smaller size containment pipe. For LCX, a 2-piece reducer ring is bonded into the containment clamshell and onto the outer jacket of the smaller containment pipe. Again, the LCX assembly is much simpler, compact, and requires less cost and time. This concludes the section on piping. Continue on to Chapter 3 with the installation of rigid sump penetration fittings.